Now let's talk about measure of central tendency. So by the end of this section, you should be able to find and interpret the mean, median, mode, which is called the measure of central tendency. You should be able to infer central tendency measures from stem and leaf displays, be able to discern symmetry in data sets, and be able to compare measures of central tendency. The most common measure of central tendency is the mean, or the average. To find the average, all you have to do is add up all your numbers and divide by the number of numbers that you have. Now, the formal definition of mean, the mean of n data items such as x sub 1, x sub 2, on to x sub n, is calculated as x bar is equal to the summation x over n. Now, we use the x with a bar over it, known as x bar, to be the mean of the sample. The sample of a population, though, is denoted by the Greek letter mu. This summation symbol, sigma, is used to signify adding up your data. So you're adding up all your X data. X meaning all your numbers that are included in your data, your survey. So in this section or this lesson, the data sets will be considered samples. So we're going to use the formula or the sample mean, which is x bar. So recall x bar equals the summation of x over n. So let's take all of our numbers of our data, and let's say we were given the following data: 305, 285, 240, 376, 198, 264. Now there's 6 numbers. So you add up all of your numbers or your items and then divide by the number of items. And since we have 6 items, that is why we're going to divide by 6. So go ahead and get your calculators out. If you were to add all of those numbers, it should add to 1,668. Next, you're going to divide by 6. And what you get is 278. So what that is then is the mean or the average of where all of those numbers fall. So the mean is, or the average is 278. Again, all you have to do, add all your numbers and then divide by the number of numbers that you have. Steps to finding the median. Step 1, the most important step, is to make sure that you arrange the items in numerical order from least to greatest first. So that's always step 1. Make sure the numbers, that your data is in order from the smallest number all the way to the greatest number. Next, count how many items you have. Because if you have an odd number of items or an odd number of numbers, then your median is going to be the middle in that list. Now, if you count your numbers and you have an odd number, an even number of numbers. So if you have an even number of numbers, it's going to be the 2 middle numbers that you have to find the average of. And recall, to find the average, you would add all your numbers and divide by the number of numbers. So if you have 2 numbers, you add the 2 and divide by 2, and then that will be your median. Okay? So let's do an example and it'll make more sense. So here we're given a set of data and asked to calculate the median age of 7 employees. So since the number 7 is an odd number of numbers, that means we have a median right in the middle. So one way you can do that is just simply cross your way until you get to the middle. In other words, cross out the outer, that's gone, go until you get to the inner. And notice when I do that, I am left with one number right in the middle. And I know it's in the middle because if you go to the left, you have 1, 2, 3 numbers to the left of that numbers, and you have 1, 2, 3 numbers to the right of that number. So that number has to be in the middle. Now, the one thing that we missed, which is very important, and I wanted to show that, if you just find the middle of the data that's given to you, you may wind up getting it wrong. You have to remember to do step 1. And what did I say step 1 was? Yes, step 1 was to first arrange the items in numerical order from least to greatest. We have to do that first. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead now and let's write them from least to greatest. And now that our numbers are in ascending order from least to greatest, increasing order, again, we have to just find the middle point, and we already know that it's going to be a number to where it has 3 numbers in front and 3 numbers in the back. So we can see here that our median is going to be 53. So the median age of the employees is 53 years old. And there you have it, median. Again, the most important step here is to first arrange your numbers in order from least to greatest, because many times when I'm grading papers, that is a reason why a number of students get it wrong, is because they forget that first step of putting your numbers in order, and then after you put it in order, you find the number that's in the middle, and that's your median. This data here, we're given the average precipitation for Seattle. So we know that Seattle rains a lot, and here are the average rain levels there in inches. So what we're going to do is step 1, we're going to take all of our data and rearrange it in order from least to greatest. Okay, and now that we've done that, let's go ahead and count our data to find out if we have an odd number of data or an even, because remember, if you have an odd number, it's whoever is in the middle. And if you have an even number, then you're going to have 2 men standing in the middle, which means you have to find the average of those 2 individuals, and that will give you your median. So let's find out how many numbers we have. Let's go ahead and count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 is an even number, which means that there are 2 numbers in the middle. And those 2 numbers are 2.4 and 3.5. So to find the median of my data, I have to find the average of those 2 numbers. And recall, to find the average, add your numbers and divide by the number of numbers you have. So since I have 2 numbers, I'm going to add those 2 numbers and divide by 2. That's going to give me 2.95. So therefore, the median of this data is 2.9. The mode of a data set is the value that occurs most often. So in other words, if you look at all of your data, you want to know what number or value data that you see the most or that is repeated. Okay? So numbers, they don't need to be in numerical order as in median. You can just look at all of your data and you're looking for the one that appears more than the others. That is your mode. So if no value is repeated, if all your digits are different numbers, then we say that there's no mode. So here's an example of some data. These are the 7 employees that we found the median of. Now we want to use that same data to find the mode. So we are looking for any digits that repeat themselves. And so out of the 7 digits, only one number repeats itself, and that number is number 57. So therefore, we would say that the mode is 57 because 57 appears more than any of the other numbers. In this example, we're given data and asked to calculate the mean, median, and mode, if any. Let's start with the mean. Recall for the mean, that's the average. To find it, all you do is add all the numbers and divide by the number of numbers that you have. So let's go ahead and add all 8 numbers, and then we're going to divide by 8 because we have 8 numbers. So when we add all the 8 numbers, we're going to get, what is it, 37.5. Go ahead and divide that by 8. And what we're going to get is approximately 4.7 as our mean. Let's go ahead and find the median. Now with the median, we need to make sure that the numbers are in order from least to greatest. So let's go ahead and put our numbers in order. And since we have 8 numbers, 8 is an even number, which means that you're going to have 2 numbers that are in the middle. So we're going to go ahead and locate those 2 numbers. And in this case, it's 4.3 and 4.5. So to find the median, all we need to do is to find the average of those numbers. So recall the average, add the numbers, and divide by the number of numbers. So in this case, we're going to add 4.3 plus 4.5, and that's going to give us 8.8. Divide by 2, and that gives us a median of 4.4. Lastly, we want to find the mode. The mode is a number that appears the most or occurs the most out of all the numbers. In other words, the values that repeat themselves. So if we look at our numbers, notice that you see 7.5 twice. So yes, that's our mode. And we actually have one other number that repeats itself. Can you see it? Yes, that number is 4.3. So in this instance, we have 2 modes because out of all the numbers, these 2 numbers appear the most. So therefore, our mode is 4.3 and 7.5. Now, if one of these appeared a 3rd time, then that number would be your mode. But since both numbers appear the same number of times, which are more than the others, you have 2 modes. And again, that's 4.3 and 7.5. That's frequency distribution tables. Now, when you're working with large data sets, it is often helpful to organize and summarize the data by constructing what is called a frequency distribution table. And in the frequency distribution table, you have your list of data, which is either individually or by group intervals, along with their frequency or their count. So here's an example of a frequency distribution table to the right. And then you have your data to the left, and this is of Academy Awards, ages of Best Actresses and Best Actors. So if you look at the distribution table, you have them by age groups, and the frequency tells the number of actor and actresses that are within that each age group. Okay. Okay, so relative frequency distribution is a little bit different from just a regular frequency distribution table. With a relative frequency distribution, it is the fraction or percentage of the data set represented by each item. So notice over next to, beside there, each group, instead of the number of actors and actresses within each group, you have the percentage of actors and actresses within that group. So let's find out how we can convert a regular frequency distribution table into a relative frequency. So to do so, to find the relative frequency of a class, all you have to do is divide the frequency, and that means the number of times it appears or the number of people within that group, divide that by the sample size. Okay? In other words, divide it by the total number of people that were surveyed. So here we have the frequency of each count, that group that's within your frequency distribution table. Example, we said before, between the ages of 21 and 30, we had 28 actors and actresses. Between 31 and 40, there were 30, and so forth. So let's go ahead and begin calculating the relative frequency for the first group. That's going to be 28 on top because that's your frequency, number of people within that group, over the total sample. So what we need to do then is we need to go ahead and add this frequency column so that we can see what is the total sample size. So the total sample size then is 76. So then to find the frequency for the first group, it would just be 28 over 76. And if you have your calculators, you can go ahead and get them out, and that's 28 divided by 76, which is going to give you a relative frequency of approximately 37%. Let's move to the next interval or the next group. So that we have a frequency of 30. So that's going to be 30 over 76. And continuing on with all the other values, you can see that again, it's pretty simple in finding the relative frequency. All you need for that is to know the total sample size, and it is always going to be the frequency, class frequency within that group divided by the sample size. Suppose you're given a distribution table and asked to find the mean. So in this particular distribution table, we have the values and the number of times that value occurs. So for example, the number 2, we have 5 of those. We have 8 number 3s, we have 10 number 4s, and we have 2 number 5s. I'm not sure you can just go ahead and list them all out and then add them all and divide by the number of numbers that you have. It would just take you much longer to do that. There's an easier way you can do that whenever you want to find the mean of a distribution table. And that is to find the mean of that sample. All you have to do is you're going to add up the summation of the X value, so whatever value is in X's place here, the X value times the frequency. So the value times the frequency. You would do that for each number and then add them all up. That is how you get your numerator. to get your denominator is going to be the total for your frequency. So let's go ahead and get started. Step one is, again, to multiply each number, the value times the frequency. So 2 times 5 is going to give me 10. 3 times 8, 24. 4 times 10, 40. 5 times 2 is 10. And now we're going to add up those numbers. That's our summation of those. We're going to add them up. That gives us what? A total of 84. So we're going to have an 84 on the top of our fraction. And now let's find the bottom. The bottom is to find the total of your frequency column. So this is our frequency column. Let's go ahead and add up those numbers, which should give us 25, I believe. Yes. So we have 84 on top and 25 on the bottom. Get your calculators out. 84 divided by 25. And what you should get is an approximate mean of 3.36. So that is how you can find the mean from a distribution table versus having to list all the numbers. But I want to show you, I mean, it's doable. If you didn't understand this method, you can certainly on the test list your numbers out and find it the regular way of adding all your numbers and divide by the number of numbers. Now let's find the medium from a distribution table. So to find the medium, all you have to do is to add up your frequency column, and you're going to, whatever that number is, you're going to divide by 2. And that will tell you the position to where you can find your median. So let's go ahead and add up our frequency column. Recall that was 25. So what we're going to have then is 25 divided by 2. And 25 divided by 2 gives us 12.5. So if you get a decimal, what you need to do is round up to the nearest whole number. And in that case, the nearest whole number would be 13. So that tells me that my medium in terms of position, it ranks as the 13th number. So my medium then is whatever number is the 13th number. So if we look at our frequency distribution, 5 plus 8 is 13. So that means that that value, the 13th value, is still a 3. And so that is my medium. Now, just to show you, you can, as I stated before, the same with the mean and the median. If you don't understand this concept, you can list the numbers out. To find the mean, add all the numbers, divide by the number of numbers. To find the median, find the middle number. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and list those numbers out so you can see them. There are all the numbers. Remember, we had 5 number 2s, we had 8 number 3s, 10 number 4s, and 2 number 5s. And sure enough, if we count in position 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Sure enough, the 13th score here, or 13th value, it is 3. Okay, And we learned that by, again, to find the median within a frequency distribution table, add your frequency number, divide by 2, and that will round it to the nearest whole number. It will tell you what rank in terms of your numbers, what position it's going to be at. This one was at the 13th position. That 13th position was a number 3. So 3 is my median. Now, if you didn't understand how to find the mean, all you have to do is just add all these numbers and then divide by 25, because that's how many numbers that you have, and that will tell you your mean. For your median, you can list them and find the middle number. But I wanted to show you the quick method of when you're dealing with a frequency distribution table, that this is an alternative method to find when you have a large data set. Lastly, we want to find the mode for this data set in a distribution table. Well, all you have to do is look on the frequency side to see the greatest number on the frequency column. And the greatest number in the frequency column is a 10. It occurs 10 times. What occurs 10 times? So if you go over to your X value, there you have it. The number 4 occurs 10 times. So that is my mode. My mode is 4 because it occurs more than any other number. I only have the 4 numbers, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And out of all those numbers, 4 appears or occurs more than the others. Calculating GPAs. You should know that the GPA stands for grade point average. So the following table here shows the units and grades earned by one student last term. So find the grade point average for this student. So to find the grade point average, and basically all grade school systems, college as well, an A has what is called 4 points to it. You earn 4 points if you get an A. You earn 3 points if you get a B, 2 points if you get a C, 1 point if you earn a D, and you get 0 credit if you earn an F in a course. And that's across any school district and college as well. That's always been the case for our grade system. So all you need to do then is take whatever grade the student got for that course, and you're going to multiply that credit that they earn times the units for that course. For example, each course has its own unit. I know in most colleges, for example, a math course may be 3 or 4 units. So in other words, when you take that course, that's how many you can earn. History, same thing. Some of your science courses, sometimes if they have a lab attached to them, they may be more units. For example, a chemistry class might be a 5-unit class. Courses like art, PE, you get very little credits on those. Usually those are like 1 or 2 unit courses for taking art, music, and PE. But your core courses are where you earn the most credit hours for. So to find the GPA of a student, grade point average, all you need to do is to multiply each grade point they earn times the unit of the course. Okay. So for the first course, this student got an A. An A is worth 4 points. That course was a 3-unit course, so you go 4 times 3. So that student earned 12 units there. Great points. A C in a course, you only get 2 points if you get a C. That was a 3-credit course, so 2 times 3, that yields 6 total. So in each one, you're going to multiply the grade points times the unit. And then what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and add up that column. When you add up that column of the amount of credits that the student earned, 43 divided by the total number of units for each course. Okay, so that's going to be 43 divided by 14, and what that means is that equals 3.07, which means that student has a GPA of a B. Anything in the 3 is a B. So again, the steps are: step 1, multiply the units for the course times the assigned grade that you got. So whatever your grade you got, multiply that with the units. Once you get that number, you're going to add all of those numbers, and that's going to give you your numerator and divide it by the number of units taken. So again, this student has a 3.07, which is a B average.